I'd like to go ahead and we've got a pretty heavy docket this morning. I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting to order. If the members would take their seats, and those that are in attendance here, welcome. Clerk, call the roll. Cast your presence. Okay, clerk, close the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, we're going to jump right into our docket this morning. I would share that we have a request. There may be a couple more, but right now, on the first page, Senate Bill 986, Senate Bill 950, and on the second page, Senate Bill 618. I entertain a motion that they be passed by for the day. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, those, any nays? Those are passed by for the day. Do we have any patrons present? Oh, Senator Reeves. Sorry. Senator Reeves, yours was kind of on the bubble for one of your bills that has a late sub that was being worked on. You have like 3 different bills dealing that came here from rehab, is that correct?
I do, Mr. Chairman. I sent one of them up here, even though I know it doesn't have a fiscal impact at that point because we'd already labeled it. So I think that's Senate Bill 486.
Okay. Are you ready to move on all 3 of these bills then, or the one would need to go by for the day, or what do you think?
No, I'm ready to move. I just don't have the substitute. My legislative director is bringing me back the substitute so we can work through 486. But I'm ready to go, and I have witnesses here and everything else on all the bills. So.
Okay. All right. Senator Reeves, just tell us which bill you want to work on first, and we'll.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to take up the 2, I think, distillery bills first because both of them are very similar in what their objective is to try to do. And let me just lay this out that there was a lot of discussion, Senator McDougal was part of that discussion, about what is going to be the policy going forward. So, Mr. Chairman, members, you're actually, when you hear those 2 bills, you're going to see how the distillery business has kind of taken it into shorts a lot more than any of the other alcohol providers. And I would contend that they've been targeted and taken advantage of. And the only way I can describe this is 484, Mr. Chairman, is outside the box thinking. We currently have a number of what I call fictitious distillery stores because we couldn't figure out what to do with them. In 2006, they considered these distilleries to be agents of the board. So what 484 does is everything fundamentally stays the same. So the only thing that changes is that distillers would only be permitted to sell the same items they're currently doing, so that doesn't change.
Senator Reeves, you're speaking to 484 first. We've got
Yeah.
the substitute here now. Do you want us to adopt the substitute?
Well, that's not the substitute. That's 486, I believe, Mr. Chairman. Is that 44? 484. Oh, yes, Mr. Chairman. There's a substitute on that as well.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the substitute? Motion properly supported to adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. We have the substitute in front of us now, Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what it's really going to do is, and how it affects it, and let me see if I can articulate this a little bit better, is how the money changes hands. That's all 484 does. It does take the onerous task of these fictitious agents of ABC, the stores, out of the system, which relieves ABC of some of the burdens that they have to manage those 38 stores with employees that really aren't truly their employees, especially as we're coming under the new authority and those transitions. I've been working with Travis and ABC, who I must say has been fantastic with trying to figure a lot of these costs and these things out. The best way I can kind of explain to you the situation of where distilleries are today was to come up with like a visual example, because I'm a pretty simple guy, Mr. Chairman. So what I thought I'd do at the risk of going to jail for destructing a dollar is, this is a dollar. When I go and I'm a distiller, the first part I lose is 54%. That's gone. So this is what's left for a distiller to look at. Now out of that, I've got to pay my excise tax, which is 20%. So that's gone. Then I've got to pay my federal excise tax, and that's gone. And then I've got this last little bit that is the systems and everything else, which leaves almost, that's what I get left as a dollar, Mr. Chairman, for a distillery. Before they even can try to start making money, all that's gone. Now, if we all, at the end of the day, decided that we were comfortable with that, we wouldn't be. That's the way I explain how this bill is trying to take after distilleries. So, Mr. Chairman, what this bill is trying to do is backfill those monies that ABC would be out of. So we started to try to run projections, and the nearest we can tell is when we first started off on this bill, if we raise the excise tax to distillers from 20% to 30%, and we said we put in a licensing fee for these distillers to have this ability to sell, we said we did it based on a tier system. And we said if we did that originally with a 30% excise tax and a fee of $2,500 if you manufacture less than 5,000, then you would run about an $810,000 deficit to ABC. That's what it would cost ABC. So I'm like, we got to fix that even a little bit better than that. So what we did was I came up with a new substitute. The substitute before you says if we set the excise tax at 50%, and if you manufacture more than 36 gallons, we still have a tier system. That would be a $20,000 license fee. That sets the deficit between what ABC would make and what the distillers have at $268,000. So I cannot close that gap based on sales projections and some of the hard numbers because I can't just get all those hard numbers from ABC. So that's the closest I can get to allowing distilleries to have freedom without having a financial impact on our budget. So I try to think outside the box. I do have quite a few members here. Christine Riggleman from Silverback Distilleries is here. Robert Bondurant from Bondurant Distilleries. Scott's here from Catoctin Creek. And of course, Curtis is here as well as part of the Distillers Association to speak to this bill as well as the other bill 803 that has to do with trying to do that.
Senator Reeves, we're going to have limited time. We're going to try to focus mainly on the potential for lost state revenue.
Gotcha.
You know, if you have a speaker that would want to just make a brief statement about why this is needed and desirable.
That'd be great, Mr. Chairman.
Entertain that, and then we'll need to figure out if the substitute still has the negative revenue impact that the original bill had.
This substitute 484 does have that $268,000
Okay.
revenue shortfall.
All right.
If Christine Riggleman could come up, that'd be great. I think
Okay.
she could probably speak
All righty.
for the group.
I'll be very brief, but also Scott from Catoctin Creek Distillery would be very helpful. So basically, if we're allowed to keep the money that we earn instead of having to give 54% back, we can keep our bottle sales out of our tasting room. That's all we're asking for. When we distribute to ABC, we understand the structure, but we just need to be able to keep our bottle sales to survive. Because if we can, then we can keep the farmers in business. Just Silverback alone can sustain a 200-acre farm in Virginia. We can hire more people. We can buy Virginia grains. We can keep giving back to Virginia, and we can grow. We're working with SUSTA to try to be able to get international, to be able to help us grow. Breweries can't do that. We can go international. We need to get money back in our pockets because we're barely hanging on. 5 distilleries have closed in the last few years because everybody is barely holding on. We have to loan ourselves money from our personal accounts just to make it every month. It's not working. It's a flawed system, and we need help.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Scott.
Senator Reeves, since it was a very close vote in your committee, like maybe one person who could frame why the opposition or those that don't like this policy change.
Senator McDougal's in there.
Well, I know Senator McDougal. I was going to call on Senator McDougal. Senator McDougal. Well, we're going to have him have the last bite at the apple probably if we put the clause on this as we work this through the process. But Is there someone here, and I'm asking the audience now, is there someone here that could speak for those that have a concern about this? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Phil Boykin with the Virginia Beer Wholesalers Association. I did not plan on speaking to this bill, and I haven't seen the substitute. I think a couple things to consider. First of all, I think Senator Reeves did a great job explaining how the revenue comes out after the distributor has sold the alcohol to the state. But what is left out is there's a markup before they sell it to the state. And we don't know what that markup is, and that's certainly fine. I think you have seen this proposal in one form or another before you. Governor McDonald proposed it in a much different, well, much grander scale, but this is a scaled-back version of what Governor McDonald put forward to you many, many years ago. So this is not necessarily a new concept. Again, I haven't seen the exact substitute, so I can't speak to that specifically, but I think we do have some concerns. Another thing to think about when you look at the fiscal impact, Mr. Chairman, is it only includes the craft distillers, but understand that you would have to extend those same privileges under federal law, to out-of-state distillers. And so that would have the potential to be a significant hit in sales at the ABC stores. So you just need to consider that.
Thank you. All right, I will.
Mr. Chairman, Phil.
Yes, Senator Obenshain.
And I probably should grab Phil offline for this, but did you all, and I ask this because I have no recollection, did you all oppose this same kind of exception for the craft brewers?
There is no exception for the craft brewers.
Well, I'm talking about how about I guess the brew pub kind of concept? The sales on premises by craft brewers?
It's a different system, Mr. Chairman. Essentially, the state is the distributor for liquor. And, I mean, you don't sell liquor in grocery stores. You don't sell at convenience stores. It's essentially a different system.
All right, thank you. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll have ABC make a brief comment, and then
Mr. Chairman, Travis Hill with Virginia ABC, and we did express concern at the rehab committee based on revenue impacts. That's how we saw this bill. We appreciate the senator continuing to look at how to backfill that revenue, but those were our comments in the earlier committee meeting.
Okay, Senator Newman.
To the patron, Bryce, just looking ahead a little bit, your 803, as I was kind of reading ahead, are these have overlap in these two bills, or are they somewhat similar? I want to make sure I know or can they both stand alone on their own?
Well, Mr. Chairman, Senator Newman, they can both stand alone, but they are truly policy decisions. In one, we're allowing distillers, as long as they manufacture, to get out of the system of being these fictitious stores, right? That's one of them. On the other one, we're just asking for them to get the money back. So that's the difference between the two bills. And Senator Newman, I would just tell you, they don't want to get out of the two-tier system. They don't want to do any of that other stuff. They're just trying to get some of their profits back.
Okay, thank you. Senator McDougal, you're probably the most knowledgeable on this, and if we put the clause on this, you want to take a look at it when we look at the pain and the gain?
Mr. Chairman, I think there are two separate decision points we need to make. One is policy-wise, and we have always treated spirits different than we've treated wine and beer. So, and that's one policy decision. Are we going to continue to treat spirits differently or not? And I think Senator Reeves indicated we've had a long discussion going back to Governor Wilder, Governor McDonald. There's been a lot of conversation. The second piece of the decision is financially the impact from ABC and what that does. One of the concerns, and I was trying to read it real quickly, the version that came out of rehab and social services clearly had the ability for a out-of-state distiller to set up a very small 5-gallon operation and sell all their products in Virginia. I think that language might be fixed in this one, but I didn't see the substitute till it was handed out. So, but there are two real policy decisions. One financial, one, are we going to continue to treat spirits the same way we have for the last number of years?
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I said it to my committee. I said, if they both pass, great. I don't know what the house is going to do, or I don't even know the temperature of the house. And what I told the committee in rehab is that if it'd be the will of this committee to pass one or the other, then we know if they want to pass both, I'd be willing to strike the one that we can finally ultimately get to the end.
Okay. Senator McDougal, are you comfortable if we put the clause on this, then then we can make a decision because there is a revenue impact?
Mr. Chairman, the position I articulated in rehab is probably the one I still think is appropriate, and that would be that we should probably look at the multiple policy decisions and send one policy decision out. I do think that Senator Newman's point, even though they overlap, it's probably appropriate for us to pick one. That would be my suggestion. So you might want to hear from Senator Reeves about the other bills and then make a determination after hearing that.
Okay. Are you good with that, Senator Reeves?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. If
Okay.
you want to take up park that one and take up 803?
That's what we'll do then.
All right.
Senator Bill 803.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, this is a very simple bill now. This bill just takes any reasonable markup imposed by the board pursuant to a certain code on spirits sold at a government store, which is what they are right now, so this doesn't have that big policy decision. They'll stay as agents of the state. On a distiller's licensed premise shall be retained by the distiller. It's that simple. We're taking the markup that the ABC makes, and we're going to give it back to the people that are actually making it and doing the products. And there's a pretty good portion that's going to be taken out, and Travis can talk to that a little bit if you'd like to hear what that impact would be.
Okay, let's, Travis, you want to speak to that?
I have not figured out how to backfill on this one.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Travis Hill again with ABC. Yes, sir, the senator accurately described the bill. The distillery stores would keep the markup. We have close to 40 distillery stores right now operating under an operating agreement with the state. We would forecast about $1.7 million impact in FY19 and about $2.3 million in FY20 if the entire markup is retained by these distillery stores operating as agency stores in our system.
Okay. Curtis, I believe you were next, and then Tom, just briefly.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Curtis Colburn on behalf of the Virginia Distillers Association. I'd like to talk strictly about the fiscal impact. The fiscal impact that ABC has described is certainly not impossible, but I would say it's aggressively optimistic. It would require a 70% increase in sales over the next 2 years before they would incur that level of impact, and 130% over 3 years. And when you get out to 22, I think is in the thing, it would quadruple. Sales would have to quadruple to do that. It's a straight percentage. The markup is a straight percentage. So they had $1 million total in fiscal year 17. So it'd be 1.7 would be a 70% increase in sales. We think that's a little bit aggressively optimistic, although it certainly is possible. But what they don't mention is that there are other things involved in it, sales tax and excise tax, that they're not counting because they go straight to the general fund. Those things would increase by the same multiples, so that if the projections that ABC puts forth are accurate, then in 22, you'd actually be making more than $1 million more than you did last year rather than less. It's kind of like the situation that you get in every year with the school funding or whatever, where they say you've cut the budget. Well, you cut what was proposed, but you're still giving them more money than last year. That's what you'd end up with here. While there would be less money than they could get, it'd be more money than they're getting now.
Okay, thank you. Tom, do you have a couple remarks?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Tom Lisk, representing the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. And I'll be very brief. Our concern is not with the distilleries being able to sell bottles of their spirits to the public, but the legislature made the policy decision a few years ago to allow these same distilleries to operate as bars. They can serve full cocktails, mixed drinks to the public. They don't have the same food requirements as restaurants, but that's fine. But now with this bill, if the distillery is allowed to keep the markup, which averages about 69%, then they will be able to sell their cocktails at substantially less than restaurants serving the same distilled spirits products from Virginia distilleries. If they sell their bottle of liquor to the state for $30, you add a 69% markup, that bottle becomes over $50. The 20% excise tax on top of that is over $60 to buy that bottle. That's what we restaurants will have to pay. Without the markup, the distiller will be paying $36, $25 less for the same product, the same bottle of spirits, to serve in their cocktails, allowing them, frankly, to unfairly underprice restaurants that have a much more substantial burden. That's the piece we don't like. If restaurants could buy at the same reduced price from the distillers, we'd be fine with this. But we do think that's unfair competition, and that's our concern with the bill.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a brief remark to make, pro or con?
My name is Scott Harris. I'm a founder of Catoctin Creek Distillery in Loudoun and Clark County. And I would just like to point out a couple things. One, inaccuracy. We are actually limited right now in the amounts that we can pour in our tasting room. I've had a distillery now for 9 years, and we have no desire to be a bar. We simply have a small tasting, 4 half-ounce pours that allows us to give the public a taste of what we're doing. That's why they're called tasting rooms, so that we can sell that bottle and make the revenue that we're trying to make to expand our business. Expanding distillery businesses is expanding manufacturing jobs. It's expanding agricultural jobs. We could hire more employees and continue to grow our small businesses in these counties, especially rural counties where the agriculture is growing.
Mr. Chairman, before he leaves, I want to ask a question.
Yes, Senator Carrico.
In the process of your distilleries, are you required to purchase so much grown product in the region that you're in?
I don't believe there's a legislative requirement for doing that, but most of our distilleries are marketed on the fact that we do local agriculture. The majority of our agriculture is local. Every distiller I know uses Virginia agriculture as well. So that is kind of built into our businesses. Obviously, one of the driving costs there is transportation costs. So getting grain from across the country is very, very expensive. It weighs a lot of and costs a lot to get it there.
All right.
Okay. All right, we're going to have to, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to have to close down here with a couple people standing. Do you have a quick remark to make? Pro or con, we'll have to move on.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. If you look at the, Mike Troxel with Ref Pack here in favor of this particular bill. If you look at the packet you've got, I apologize for not having it passed out earlier. ABC has had 19 consecutive years of record revenues. And the average rate of growth for that is 6% annually. ABC's estimates have 37% growth annually year over year for 4 years for this economic impact. We think that's a little aggressive. If you take only a 3% growth for ABC next year, then what we're really talking about here in these numbers is ABC only having 85% of that additional growth instead of 100%. What we're really talking about is peanuts. We're talking about giving the distillers only 15% of the additional revenues that ABC takes in. There will be absolutely zero real revenue loss from this bill, and the only thing that will actually be accomplished is our distillers are thrown a lifeline so that they can continue to grow the industry just like beer and wine. Thank you.
Okay. All right, one more speaker, and just briefly, the,
Mr. Barner, you want?
well, you'd already spoken, or y'all worked that out?
Go ahead.
Okay,
I want Robert's.
okay.
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, my name is Robert Bondurant, and I'm the owner and head distiller at Bondurant Brothers Distillery down in Mecklenburg County in Chase City. I'm in support of this bill. What this bill would do for me, being a small distiller, I use 100% Virginia grains. I take great pride in the fact that I use everything is from Virginia. I'm a third-generation distiller. My grandparents and my grandfather and great-uncles were in Franklin County, Virginia. But what this would do for me, this would allow me to hire some additional help. You know, it's tough doing everything yourself. What this would do, this would free up some capital where I could actually go out and hire some help. I can work on my distillery. I can do some capital projects. I know it's been said many times that it would be a major loss for the state, but the big loss for the state is the distilleries that are closing, that are having to shut their doors because they can't operate under this system. I think what this would do in the long run, this would be more conducive to businesses actually coming to Virginia and opening their doors. And I believe that that is one aspect that we need to look at that would help this situation also. But I believe that overall, this would be a great help for all the distilleries here in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony. All right, Senator
Mr.
Reeves.
Chairman, that's the two bills, and they
Okay.
both get at the same issue of fairness, if you want to call it that, for our distillers. So one tries to recoup some of the cost, the other one, I cannot recoup those
Okay.
costs.
Senator Reeves, I would observe that Senate Bill 803 had the best show of support in your committee. The other one barely got out. Would you, if you had to choose one or the other, would you go with Senate Bill 803?
Mr. Chairman, I haven't been Solomon in a very long time.
Okay.
Can I
think
ask my
that-
distillers which one they'd rather have if we're going to kick one out?
If they can quickly.
There you go, 803, Mr. Chairman.
803, all right, 803. You want to strike the other one, or you want us to PBI it?
Mr. Chairman, I'll strike my bill. I said
Okay.
I'd strike my bill if it was the will of the committee, so, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, I would request we
John, is
strike
that recorded
43.
vote to strike the bill? Okay. Is there a motion to strike the Senate Bill 484? Motion properly supported. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. To strike. Right, you might want to vote against it.
There we go.
Okay. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 14-0.
Okay, Senate Bill 484 is
Well, I
stricken
got
from the docket.
unanimous. That's awesome.
She voted.
What's your pleasure on Senate? Beg your pardon? Clerk, let's cancel that vote. Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Okay, clerk, reopen the roll. Cast your votes. Okay, clerk, Senator Donovan?
We will report her.
Okay, the correct vote then would be 16-0 to strike the bill. The bill is stricken from the docket.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we add the clause in report 803.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? Any further discussion on Senate Bill 803? There's a motion that we add the clause and that the, all those in favor of adding clause signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay, we have one no on that. Senator Newman. The motion is now in order. Senator McDougal has made the motion. Was there a second? To report Senate Bill 803 as amended. Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Senator Donovan, you're still not working? Okay. All right. Okay, the recorded vote is 16-0 to report. Clerk, close the roll. Thank you. Okay, Senator Reeves, you had one other bill.
Yeah, I don't mean to trespass on the committee's time. That would be 486, Mr. Chairman. And originally what this bill had, the reason it was going to be in finance was it had a fiscal impact. We took that section of the bill out. So what this bill does in summary is 75% of the spirits used in the samples are manufactured on the licensed premises of the distillery, and it changes the time in which the distillery can open to 10 a.m. And that's all the bill does, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I think if there's I'm looking at my statement, there might be increased compliant agent cost by $5,000. That's news to me, but maybe Travis can speak to that.
Mr. Chairman?
Senator McDougal.
One of the other things the bill does is increases the time when these stores can be open to 10 a.m. We had some discussion in rehab. It is highly likely that that will actually have a positive revenue impact, not negative.
No, that's right.
So I don't know that we can determine how much positive, but we did see when we went from 1 to noon, it was pretty substantive, the positive impact.
Okay.
Where's Travis?
All right. Any reaction here? Basically, so we've eliminated the potential negative impact. Would you concur with that, Travis?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, that impact was just based on the increase in the number of banquet licenses issued and the agents having to investigate those applications. I would project to see a high revenue produced If these stores are open earlier, I'd say you'd see a bigger number. If you opened all state stores at 10 a.m. on Sunday, that's where the real rise would be.
Okay, all right. The measures in front of us, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Unless anybody needs it.
Okay. I would say that historically I've voted against Sunday sales, so I probably will record a no vote, but that's where we're at. What's the pleasure of the committee?
We vote on them. I move to report.
Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 486. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Yes, Senator Dance.
Mr. Chair, could I address Senator Dance's question?
I'm
Real
sorry.
quick.
Did I,
No,
did
you're
I hear
fine.
that? The representative from the ABC can he come back? Did he say that we would instead of just doing the distillers, that if we open all of the ABC stores or let them open them at 10 a.m. or let them stay open until 10, whatever it is, then that would be revenue.
Okay, you want to
Did I get
address
that
that?
right?
Senator?
When he come back?
Senator Dance, Mr. Chairman, Senator Dance, that is very true. We heard those projection numbers, and that would be, I don't want to call it a windfall, but the state would absolutely make a lot more money. My challenge with, they talked about, several members of the committee wanted to amend my bill, this bill, to include all state stores. I requested that we not do that because I don't know what the flavor of the House is. If the House decides that they'd like to have that, then I certainly, maybe there's a probability or get another bill, or I don't know, but I don't want to do any damage to this bill in the current form.
To be clear, your bill doesn't do that then?
No, it does
that's
not, Mr.
fine.
Chairman.
Okay? Is that clear, Pure?
Thank you.
Okay. There's a motion properly supported that the bill be reported. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 9, no 7.
Ayes 9, no 7. The bill is reported.
Thank you.
Senator Reeves.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
y'all.
Senator Reeves. Okay, I observe that we have patrons here, but no one has punched their button that you're queued up on my monitor up here. So who was first? If any of y'all want to punch your buttons down there Senator Locke? It isn't showing up here, John. I hit the button there. Okay, my fault. I didn't hit the button. Senator Locke, Senator Peterson. She's working here now. So Senator Peterson, you're up.
Mr. Chair, this is Senate Bill 809. And this has to do with condemnation. Basically, it does three things. It was already heard in the Courts Committee, but it does three things. It evens up the discrepancy between a full take and a partial take. When the government takes land from an individual and it harms or it has an impact on a small business or any business for that matter, but typically a small business, if it's a full take, then there's a requirement to compensate to up to 1 year of lost profits for that business. If it's a partial take, there's a requirement to compensate to up to 3 years. And it's at the discretion of the fact finder. You have to put on proof. But the bottom line is there's a discrepancy, which quite frankly, I've never understood. I think it was an oversight when we passed this law back in 2013 and had the constitutional amendment. So my bill evens up that oversight. It also clarifies that the date from which the damages begin is the date when the later the date, either when the certificate of take is filed or when the actual construction begins, which is, of course, when it has an impact on the business. And then the third part simply just clarifies that the small business owner can intervene in the state proceeding. They have standing to file the claim themselves. So those are the 3 points. I don't think any of them are breaking any new ground here. I had a list of folks that supported this bill, Farm Bureau, NFIB, Virginia Forestry Association, Family Fund, and others. So
Okay.
I'll give you as much more information as you need, but that's pretty much it.
Okay. Anyone here to speak in opposition to this bill? All right. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to report.
Motion properly supported to report the bill. That is Senate Bill 809. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll. Got it? Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 14, noes 2.
Ayes 14, noes 2. The bill is reported.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Peterson. Senator McPike.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Senate Bill 867, I think, was in the Health Subcommittee yesterday. And then I also have Senate Bill 642, so whichever one.
Okay, we'll take up the one that was in the subcommittee with that report. Which was your other bill?
Senate Bill 642.
Okay, let's take that one up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. This bill deals with cancer presumption law in our Line of Duty Death Act. This is two real changes to the bill. One is to add colo. A lot of times we have colon cancer and rectal cancer. We have rectal cancer currently in our presumption law. This also would add the provision of colon cancer. A lot of times when the diagnosis occurs, they write it down as rectal or colorectal cancer. That is cause of confusion. There's been several cases that have come up and created some conflict. And the other provision, lines 45 through 47, is also to eliminate a provision. Last year, we discussed this bill a little bit. In the interim time, I had a constituent case and go through a diagnosis of pancreatic cancer. I've been in the fire service, met the requirements at the time, met all other duty requirements, and then frankly went through a series of denial. This section of the code really sets up a framework of attorneys and insurance essentially denying folks, even though we have a presumption law that's on the books. This turned into an 8 to 10 month battle of the family getting denied, even though diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, been in the fire service 20 years, exposure, everything else met. And unfortunately, these provisions of the law really just set up the battle for attorneys versus actually helping families who earn them as our public safety, as our firefighters protecting us in the line of service each and every day. That is the bill. It's unfortunate to watch firsthand this play out over the last year. The family was actually finally settled for $15,000 and finally qualified for the line of duty death benefit, which was finally approved. And I was able to call his wife and let him know that. He died 4 hours later. So these things are real to families. You've probably seen in some of these things in your districts. And it's time we update the law so it is actually a Cancer Presumption Act. And right now it doesn't function as such.
Okay, thank you. Senator Norman?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the advocacy of Senator McPike and their friends in the audience who have come in support of it. But I think earlier in the session, we made a policy decision that we were going to refer all of these potential loader bills to carry them over for the year and have them studied in the aggregate rather than taking them up separately.
Thank you, Senator Norman. Senator McPike, I think there were at least 3 bills on the docket last week that we did carry over. And we as you're aware, we had a Line of Duty Act work group that made recommendations a couple years ago. We've implemented that. The dust really hasn't settled on that, so that it seemed to be the will of the committee to kind of put all these measures together. Not to question the merit of your initiative, I think it does have merit, but that we would try to work them all together with recommendations in the interim. So that is basically where we're at.
So, Mr. Chairman, if there's a follow-up study, I spoke with Chairman Jones, who also worked a significant amount of time on this specific provision, which he is interested in the discussions. If there's going to be a significant work group, we need to get this going, because watching families delay month after month after month after battle, after really drawing down personal funds of something that's supposed to be in a presumption, we need to take action on this.
Right. Okay, thank you. All right, anyone here that feels the need to speak on this measure? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we carry the bill over for a year and refer it to the subgroup that is studying the loader bills.
Okay, is there a second? Motion properly supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Senator Donovan, you pushed your button yet? Okay. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 15, noes 1.
Ayes 15, noes 1. The bill is carried over with the understanding the subject will be addressed with the work group.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator Mike. And your other bill is in a block that we intend to pass, so you're good there. Okay. All right. Senator Waxton.
Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to put any of these three bills in that same block, I'd be delighted.
Okay. Which one?
I have three bills. We'll start with Senate Bill 163.
Senate Bill 163.
Senate Bill 163 would add the African-American burial ground for the enslaved at Belmont to the list of traditionally African-American cemeteries that would be eligible to seek state funding and support under 10.12211.2. This is a very recent occurrence. It's a cemetery in Belmont in Loudoun County. It was just discovered, mapped out, had the archaeological survey, and there are a total of 44 grave sites on that location. So we're talking about really a de minimis fiscal impact. It's very important to the people.
Thanks, Senator Norman.
Mr. Chairman, I move to report.
Motion properly supported to report the bill. It does have a very de minimis revenue impact. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 16, noes 0.
Ayes 16, noes 0. The bill is reported. Senator Waxman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could take up Senate Bill 419.
Senate Bill 419, okay?
That is equal pay statute or bill to make changes to our current equal pay statute to include benefits and privileges as incidents of wages that must be treated equally irrespective of sex, and also to add protections for employees who discuss their income and wage information with other employees. There is a fiscal impact statement in my file, but it indicates that it would not result in a fiscal impact to Dolly, as they would not be responsible for enforcement. It creates a private cause of action for individuals who are aggrieved by employer actions.
Do you have anyone here to speak on this?
I don't think they're here
Okay,
today.
anyone here opposed? Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee? There was a motion to report. Was there a second to that? Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 11, noes 5.
Ayes 11, noes 5. The bill is reported. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Senator
Chairman. My
Waxman?
final bill on the calendar today is Senate Bill 893. This is the personal needs allowance change for our Medicaid recipients in Virginia nursing homes. Is that on there?
I'm sorry, Senator Waxman, you want to make that comment again?
So was Senate Bill 893 on the calendar today?
That one is in subcommittee. Let me
Okay.
see here.
We just had it yesterday. Okay.
893. Senate Bill 893, I believe, is in good shape. We will put the clause on that.
Very good.
Report it. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Waxman. Senator DeStaff. Okay, Senator DeStaff isn't here. Senator Stanley.
Playing the role of Senator DeStaff will be Bill Stanley today.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As is usually my tradition, I have 4 bills, if you want to take them all up in a block. And Make it very quick and
Move to
painless. I'm
PBA.
up for
That might expedite things, Senator Stanley.
We have the former chairman, Senator Stosh, who reminded me that was his most economical way to deal with my bills. So,
Okay. Which one are you taking up first?
may it please, Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 28 with
Senate
Senator
Bill
Sturman.
28. Okay, I believe we
there's a
heard that one last week.
There's a substitute.
Okay.
I move the substitute.
Motion properly supported to adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the substitute is before you.
Mr. Chairman, if you do recall, Senate Bill 28 is putting a marker down that says no general funds will be used, no taxpayer funds will be used in harmful experiments to dogs and cats. The substitute basically tries to take care of a situation that was brought up by Senator Howe that perhaps in our colleges and universities had maybe some agita about. I can assure you that the substitute, which Ms. Wallmeyer worked very hard on, and I'm very appreciative for her hard work, has also been vetted by the colleges and universities. That's why most of them aren't here, because they like it. So basically, in a nutshell, what we're trying to do here and what the substitute accomplishes is that we're making sure that the pipeline from the general funds to the Dr. Strangelove who's conducting these painful experiments does not occur. So what it basically says is that no fund shall be appropriated, granted, or awarded to any person or entity to directly fund medically unnecessary research on dogs and cats classified under the paying distress category E by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. What it exempts then, directly funding research does not include appropriation, grant, award of funds for construction, maintenance of facilities, overhead costs, capital improvements, purchase of equipment or use of that equipment and its maintenance, or faculty or employees. So we believe that that takes care of the issue as it pertains to our colleges and universities that still may conduct these experiments in the future. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I would yield to Senator Sturtevant for the rest.
Senator Sturtevant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that this substitute really addresses a lot of the important concerns that were raised about this bill, making sure that we are not limiting our colleges and universities from being able to make capital improvements and invest in their personnel, while at the same time, I think, ensuring that we are not allowing state taxpayer dollars from the general fund to go to these maximum pain experiments.
Okay. I don't believe we have the need here to open up testimony. We had quite a bit, unless you just have a speaker that you want to. I think the issue last week, it seems like a year, that we had was there was by mixed vote, the bill was reported, and then we discovered that we actually didn't have it in appropriate format because of some of the funding that actually would be going into these programs. We're pretty comfortable now that this language does eliminate that possibility?
Mr. Chairman, it narrows the pipeline. It takes care of the issues that were brought forth by the colleges and universities. They're satisfied with that language. We went over it with them again and again. They even made a slight change, and everybody was on board with that language.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee? Well, the committee's not too responsive this morning. Anybody here like this bill?
I have a question. Can I have a question?
Yes, Senator Dance?
Yeah, I have some notes that the Farm Bureau opposed that particular, your wonderful bill. So are they now in agreement with this amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman, I'd answer the gentlelady by saying what they were concerned about, they had concerns. I don't know that they're necessarily opposed, but those concerns were the expansive, to make sure that it wasn't expansive in its nature for those that might have. So that's why it's just to dogs and cats used in experiments, not to service dogs, not to dogs used in farm things. So I believe that was their concern. I've not spoken to them since, and I haven't showed them this. But this even narrows it further to the degree where this is really a pipeline from the general fund to those dogs and cats that are used in painful type E, high pain, no relief experiments.
Okay. All right. Members of the committee, do you feel the need for additional testimony on this, or are you prepared to take action? There's a motion to report. Is there a second? Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 28, dealing with research on animals and restrictions thereon. Okay. No further discussion. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 11, nays 5.
Ayes 11, nays 5. The bill is reported.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Senator Sturtevant and Senator Stanley.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I appreciate that greatly.
Okay.
The pleasure of the committee, Senate Bill 177.
177, okay. All right, Senator Stanley.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this, of course, came out of, I believe, general laws was sent to you all. It's regarding Revolutionary War cemeteries. Mr. Chairman, as you know, we are coming up on our 250th anniversary of the American Revolution in 2025. Senator Sasslaw was just a boy back then, so I don't know that he has a direct memory of it. But what this does is immediately recognizes over 4,000 documented graves without the need for special legislation to add each and every cemetery and site. It recognizes, in a nutshell, the patriotic service of men and women, African Americans, free and enslaved, Native Americans who are excluded from the current legislation in recognition and protection of those graves for those who were patriots and may not have served in the Revolutionary War, but were a part of it nonetheless. It's $5 per grave, which is a minuscule amount to honor these men, women, and people of color who made massive sacrifices to found our great nation. And so I believe that it's time that we step up and that Virginia recognizes and honors the revolutionary service of all regular folks, not just the ones whose descendants knew and were connected enough to ask for this special legislation previously in the General Assembly. And that's the bill, Mr. Chairman.
As we reviewed this, Senator Stanley, I think the concern was it's a new initiative in a year when we don't have much money for new initiatives. So I suppose if we're going to entertain this, which does seem to have merit, it looks like most of them are up in Augusta County.
I planned it that way, Mr. Chairman, for you.
Okay.
And
Well, Mr. Chairman, I got a plan.
Okay.
I respectfully move that we put the clause on it, sir.
Second, all in favor of adding the clause signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, what's the pleasure of the committee on the bill?
Mr. Chairman, I move to report as amended.
All right, there's a motion that the bill, that is Senate Bill 177, dealing with Revolutionary War cemeteries and graves, be reported. Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. The bill is reported. Clerk close the roll. 14 to 1. Thank you, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I appreciate it greatly. Mr. Chairman, I understand that perhaps SB 31 does not need discussion. I got actually a circle around it, so if we can, we'll just go to Senate Bill 181.
181, right.
There is an amendment to 181, which was just handed down.
Does clerk have the amendment?
Looking at the substitute that was reported out of court, I think, on line 1176, strike after the word Virginia, strike, and no fee shall be charged for such return or reinstatement of a person's driver's license, and insert, provided that such person has paid the applicable reinstatement fee.
Okay, did y'all hear that amendment? Is there a motion? Well, let's frame that. Does that eliminate the fiscal impact?
It does, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
members of the committee, the fiscal impact came back, I think it was around $8 million. What it was the non-capturing of the reinstatement fees for those that by virtue of this piece of legislation would have their licenses restored. What this does is reinstates the applicable fee, I think it's $141, which they would go. And so once their license is restored, if it's only been suspended for non-payment of fines, they would go to the DMV, pay the reinstatement fee, get their license back, and be able to go to work and to lead, good lives and good tax-paying lives. So what we try to do is eliminate that burden on the state. I can tell you my clients who suffer from this distress of not having a license only because of unpaid fines will be in more of a position to pay $141 than sometimes when they need more time to pay what can be thousands of dollars.
Okay.
Bless you.
Senator Norman, did you have a? Okay, was there a motion to adopt the amendment?
So move.
Second. Motion properly supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Senator Stanley, I know it's your intent to eliminate the fiscal impact. We probably are going to need the clause so we can verify that.
Yes, sir, I understand.
I move the clause.
Is there a second? Okay, motion properly supported to attach the fiscal clause. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have the bill in front of us. I think we have some people over here that support the bill.
Yes, sir.
But y'all good not to speak if we go ahead and report it? Okay.
I move the report as amended.
There's a motion properly supported that the bill as amended be reported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor will record your vote. Clerk, open the roll. Record your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 13, noes 2.
Ayes 13, noes 2. The bill is reported, and that amendment moved it from a no to a maybe.
Mr. Chairman, this is a lot easier and a lot better and a lot more fun than when Senator Stosh was chairman, so I just want to compliment you both.
Yeah, it was.
But it takes two of you to replace one of him, I see, so you'll have a
Okay.
great morning. Thank you.
Okay. Thank. Pike, DeStefs, Stanley, Peak, Senator Peak. Is Senator Peak in the room? Senator DeStefs in the room? Is that?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for having me here today. What a wonderful day. Today, we're talking about Senate Bill 574, step therapy. I have the little circle on my card saying I don't need to speak about Senate Bill 310. Unless you choose to, then I'm happy to speak about it.
And you're presenting a substitute?
Yes. I am, and I believe the substitute on the step therapy was already adopted, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't believe this substitute has been adopted. Let's,
Okay.
I move this substitute, sir.
okay, is there a second to adopting substitute?
Okay.
Okay, properly supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Senator DeStefs, we have the substitute in front of us that was created for today, February
Mr. Chairman,
6th.
Great.
Okay?
So we'll talk for a minute about step therapy and the programs and why they were brought into effect. And it's basically brought into effect to require patients to try less expensive treatments and find them to be, whether ineffective or effective or otherwise. It helps drive, apparently it helps drive down the cost of insurance. But after doing some research into this and reading multiple studies, and the latest one from the School of Law with Case Western Reserve University, Legal and Ethical Implementations of Step Therapy Cost Measures, a lot of people a lot smarter than me, they basically found that with step therapy as an intervention, it's favored by a majority of the insurers in the United States, and often patients suffer no ill consequences to step therapy policies. For the most part, many of them tolerate the generic drugs and just as well as they do the brand names. But in other instances, step therapy promotes neither patient interest nor the insurance company's economic goal. Patients that suffer many grave harms when they do not receive the physician's drug by choice because of step therapy constraints. These can include medical complications as well as severely diminished functionality, which in turn can result in inability to work, financial difficulties, depression, health problems stemming from the sedentary or inactive lifestyles. But they refer to step therapy as penny wise and pound foolish. And we've had during multiple committee meetings individuals who have come up and shared their stories. I won't go through all the stories. I think we have one speaker today, or maybe two speakers today, for or against.
Okay.
But that's pretty much it. It's step therapy protocols, and that's the bill.
Okay. And Senator DeStefs, I would say that our focus, we'll try to keep our focus on the fiscal impact. It was somewhat indeterminate. Does the substitute do anything with the fiscal impact?
I would have to defer on that one. I'm not sure if it helps or not.
Okay. I observed that it was a very mixed vote coming out of Commerce and Labor.
Here we go. Let me go to the subject matter experts on this.
Okay.
Whether it helps or hinders it.
Chairman, I'm Donna Gwynn with the National Patient Advocate Foundation. Just a couple of things. You should have received this either by email or distributed to you, but this is just
Maybe under your door in the middle of the night.
exactly. So what we've done is we've gone and done some research on the cost of premiums going up because this was stated at a previous hearing. But opponents of SB 574 noted that if step therapy is reformed, insurers may increase premiums as a cost-saving measure to compensate for fewer savings in step therapy. But practices such as step therapy are not expected to significantly impact the upward or downward pressure on premiums compared to other factors. Now, I won't go into everything that we actually outlined in what we put under your door, but just a couple of things. There is a specific study on schizophrenia medication. It initially saved Georgia's Medicaid program $20 per member per month. And I know this is not exact, but at least it gives you some ideas about how that this actually does not increase the cost. Additionally, a study focusing on treatment for attention deficit disorder concluded that step therapy resulted in no overall cost difference, but did cause patients to experience treatment delays and to utilize needed drugs. So we do support this bill, and we represent patients throughout the state of Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Someone else to speak briefly?
Yes, hi, I'm Dr. Harry Kawanter. I'm a pediatric rheumatologist in town. I want you to know that the insurance industry has already pointed out that they already do this, and so there should not be any fiscal impact from their side. What this bill does is expedite the process. It decreases costs for physicians. It decreases harm on patients. It is supported by MSV, the Richmond Academy of Medicine, Medical Society of Northern Virginia, American College of Rheumatology, and I can give you multiple other organizations. The costs may come out of your specific drug line budget, but you are going to have increased costs in disability and other costs down the line from inadequate and inappropriate treatment. I would also add that one of the things that is pointed out frequently about this bill is that is to try to prevent doctors from not using generics. It is interesting to note, if you look at the formularies on a number of insurers, that in fact first choice in a number of circumstances are non-generic brand drugs. They've picked those because it is an economic savings to them. It is not because there's any difference in the drugs themselves. So I would hold that this would not cause any negative impact in the drug lines of the budget, but it will cause an impact in the overall cost to the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone one person perhaps to speak in opposition to this? Is there anyone?
The Grim Reaper.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Doug Gray, Executive Director of the Virginia Association of Health Plans. What this bill does is in essence, defeat the purpose of step therapy. It lets a doctor opt out when they choose. The criteria for them to opt out are as big as a truck. You can drive right through that hole anytime you want. I mean, the bottom line is that $42 million is what the estimate is for step therapy edits, along with also prior authorization and other management tools. So, I mean, that's just on your state health plan. The bottom line is this is a philosophical disagreement in which the sponsors of the bill would like the doctor to prevail in each and every case. We have national standards about which drugs to use, and those are made by doctors that are not at the health plan. These are doctors that are specialists in these industries, and these protections are in place in the step therapy statutes so that doctors can get an answer quickly. We have to answer an urgent request in 24 hours if there's a phone call made, in 72 hours if there's an urgent appeal. We have the processes in place, and we are responsive when there is a change that needs to be made. Self-insured plans do not have to follow these rules, and most of the examples we've heard thus far in which someone has had a delay have been self-insured plans, which is more than half of the market. Self-insured plans are regulated by the Department of Labor. This bill would not change anything in regard to self-insured plans. Thank you.
Thank you. I observe that this did not come through Education and Health, so I'd like to call on the Chair of Education and Health.
I'm going to go instead.
Or-
Well, I was going to move the substitute.
Oh, yeah,
We did that. We did?
second. Got it.
Beg your pardon?
I'll second
But,
that motion.
okay, we did it, but we did it, we'll do it again. Okay?
Move the adoption.
Okay, all right.
Second.
Properly supported. All those in favor of adopting the substitute signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Senator,
Mr. Chairman, just briefly, I know that Senator DeSteffe is doing what he can. I would just tell you that I think Republicans and Democrats down here have an interest in the safety net, and we're trying to figure out that, and that's Medicaid or other ways. But the one thing I think that we absolutely agree on is the premiums for those people that are not in ERISA plans are going up exponentially. Exponentially. We just can't afford the premiums for those guys. And it's this bill, if we just look at what it's going to do to the state plan, it's a big difference. But if you look at what it'll impact doing further beyond that, it is a bigger problem. I agree with Senator DeSteffe that we probably need to look at the timeframes a little more, but I'd like to see us do that over the interim. And, Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask that we consider holding this bill over to next year and we take a look at some of the timeframes, and I would so move.
so there's a motion to continue the bill to 2019 and study. Was there a second to that? Motion properly supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
16 no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill will be continued, and Senator DeSteffe will continue the conversation.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much.
You bet. Senator Peake, Senator Locke is, Senator Lucas, are you going to represent her today? She's got a fairly simple bill.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Lucas, not Locke. And I will be presenting Senate Bill 198.
198.
Yes.
Okay.
What it does, Mr. Chairman, is adds an additional 266 grave sites at the Mount Calvary Cemetery in the city of Portsmouth to the list of historical African-American cemeteries for which qualified charitable organizations may receive funds from the Department of Historical Resources for maintenance. And I can see that the patron submitted a budget amendment in each year for upkeep of the grave sites and additional restoration work to the Mount Calvary Cemetery. You probably wonder why she's carrying the bill in the first place, since I'm the one who lives in Portsmouth. Well, because of redistricting, she has 2 precincts, and so she presented this bill.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, because Senator Lucas is so compellingly convincing, I move to report the bill.
Okay. Is there a
Thank you,
second for
Mr.
that?
Chairman.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Please cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Locke thanks you, and so does Lucas.
Okay, the bill is reported 15 to 0. Thank you, Senator Locke, Lucas. Yes, okay. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Senator Stewart, I think you had requested attention.
Reconsideration.
Mr. Chairman, I did want to reconsider the vote by which we passed Senate Bill 419.
Okay,
Having voted on the prevailing side of passing Senate Bill 419, I wish to reconsider that vote.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? The reconsideration requires recorded vote?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion. As soon as the clerk is ready, we will. You ready? Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Okay, clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 16 no 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill is back in front of us. Senator Norman?
Mr. Chairman, so we have the opportunity to have the patron back. I'd respectfully ask we carry the bill over until tomorrow.
Okay. All those was there a second to that? All those in favor of carrying the bill over till our Wednesday's docket signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we will revisit that issue tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, Senator Norman, if you could take over for a moment. I do have a report here from the HHR Subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call on the Subcommittee Chair of HHR, Senator Hanger, for a subcommittee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have.
Excuse me one second. The members on the dais, it's yellow sheets that have those bills on them.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee met yesterday evening. We had actually a rather long meeting with a number of initiatives on the table. I'm prepared, unless someone wants to remove a particular bill from the block, to make a recommendation that Senate Bill 205, Senator Stewart, dealing with Children's Services Act, which would allow a demonstration project in Stafford County. And I would preface this to say that the bills that I'm going to ask that we report in a block all would require a financial contingency amendment. Senate Bill 205, Senate Bill 389, Senator Chafin's bill dealing with substance-exposed infants, Senate Bill 449, Senator Chafin's bill dealing with newborn screening, Senate Bill 867, Senator McPike's bill dealing with stroke care quality improvement, and Senator Wexton's bill, Senate Bill 893, dealing with Medicaid allowance for personal needs, which would increase the allowance, which is currently $40 per month, to $100 per month, a significant increase, but we decided that we would recommend putting the clause on it to see if any adjustment would be possible. Mr. Chairman, I would, unless someone wants to speak specifically to one of those bills, I would ask that those bills, I would move that those bills be reported in a block.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the first motion is that we add the clause on Senate Bills 205, 389, 449, 867, and 893.
I so move.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of adopting the clause on the following bills, 205, 389, 449, 867, 893, signify by saying aye. Aye. And the clause is added to those bills. Senator Hanger has moved, and Senator Sasslaw has seconded that Senate Bills 205, 389, 449, 867, and 893 be approved in the block as amended. Is there any discussion? If not, if you would open the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Roll is open.
Nice to know. If you report.
I-16, no zero.
I-16, no zeros. Those bills are reported in the block as amended with the clause. Senator Hanger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Senate Bill 310, Senator DeSteffe, we have a substitute for that bill.
Senator Hanger moves and Senator Howell second the adoption of the substitute Senate Bill 310.
Mr. Okay, and I think the substitute is being distributed, and I would move the adoption of the substitute.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment in the nature of substitute to Senate Bill 310 be adopted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. And what does the substitute do that the original bill did not, sir?
Mr. Chairman, I would say it's a significant difference. The original bill would have basically circumvented what is the understanding for living arrangements for individuals that are on a waiver with payments from Medicaid. The substitute basically asks DMAS to make recommendations to the General Assembly by November 1st of this year on policy related to community-based waivers for individuals where multiple individuals may be living in the same community by choice independently. So I would move then, it's a recommendation of the subcommittee that this be reported.
Is there a second that the amendment in nature substitute to Senate Bill 310 be reported? Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of reporting amendment in nature substitute to Senate Bill 310, vote.
Floor is open.
Oh, man, damn it. You'd report the votes, please, sir.
I-16, no zero.
I-16, no zero. The bill is reported as amendment in the nature of the substitute. Senator Hanger.
Thank you. Next, we have Senate Bill 878, Senator Donovan, and there will be a substitute to be presented, and I think there will be someone here perhaps that will want to address that, this particular measure.
Senator Donovan moves the substitute. Senator Hanger seconds. All those in favor of adopting this substitute to Senate Bill 878 signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, substitute is adopted. What do we got, the Stolly tandem here?
Since
Lord have mercy.
Senator Donovan, basically, I think we'll want to briefly explain this. I would say this is tremendous policy. The substitute had a little tweak to it and also was going to add the financial contingency clause, basically to address the push back or push down on localities and the CSBs that would occur if we implemented this immediately. So I will let Senator Donovan speak to that. And Senator Stolly.
Either the senator or the Lord High Sheriff, if you could tell us what the substitute is doing that the original bill did not, that might be helpful in compressed terms.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This substitute allows sheriffs that already have a relationship with another entity besides the CSBs to maintain that entity and not contract with the CSBs. Say it one, excuse me.
Would you make,
And, oh, yes, and the recommendations would be, I'm going to let Lisa make that recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that the patron wanted to amend the substitute further by clarifying that the standards to be promulgated by the board are exempt from the Administrative Process Act.
Yes, I did indeed.
Okay. Well, Senator Donovan, do you move the amendment?
I do. Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, if you would report that amendment again, please, Lisa, that would be very nice.
Mr. Chairman, at the end of the bill, an enactment clause would be added stating that the standards required to be promulgated by the Act shall not be subject to the Administrative Process Act.
Okay.
I didn't catch that again.
Mr. Chairman, we would add an enactment clause that would clarify that the standards required to be promulgated by the Act would not be subject to the Administrative Process Act.
Okay.
Exclusive from the APA.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Is that the short
And,
version?
and Mr. Chairman, I would certainly like to hear from Sheriff Stolly. There's a lot of thought going into this. I think
Well,
it's
as
a very
soon as we get
important.
it in shape, we're going to hear from the Lord High
Okay,
Sheriff.
okay.
It's been moved and seconded that the amendment as orally reported by Lisa be adopted. Is any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. That amendment is adopted. And we are delighted to hear from the Lord High Sheriff from Virginia Beach. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, Mr. Chairman. How are you doing?
I'm having a peachy day. It's nice to see you, my friend.
I can tell. All right, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, thank you. It's good to be back before you. But, this bill has a lot of misconceptions that are going on around it. But, the sheriff has absolutely authority to contract now for medical services, and it's under 52 or 53.1-126. And the cities have to pay whatever bills he incurs. And I spend about $1.5 million on mental health services a year, and probably going up every year because my population is going up every year. I have 450 mentally ill patients or inmates in my jail now, and I think the community service boards don't understand this. What this does is it enables the sheriff to contract with the community service board if the sheriff wants to contract for services. And it seems to me that that's where you want them to be. You want the people in the community that are responsible for the mental health services to provide the mental health services in the jail, and because most of these people are going to get out, and you want them to be able to have a continuous care, a seamless transition to the outside. But I think that's where the concern comes in. But there's another issue that y'all are probably not aware of that has not been brought out in the budget or in the budget summary, and that has to do with the decision that came out from the Attorney General this last year. And if I can pull it up here, it's in 2004, I think we amended the statute in 2003. In 2004, the Attorney General Kilgore issued an opinion saying that notwithstanding the language in the statute that we amended, that and the statute that was amended is 126, and it says that the new language in 2003 said that the sheriff's not responsible for payment of pre-existing conditions. Well, when Attorney General Kilgore issued an opinion on that, he said he found, notwithstanding that language, and there that the sheriff was responsible and the localities had to pay that. That came up to Attorney General Herring this last year, and he issued an opinion that, notwithstanding that Attorney General Kilgore was wrong and that the sheriff does not have to pay those bills. And so now you're in a situation where the sheriff has contracted for mental health services in the past, and now the Attorney General said that the sheriff doesn't have to pay those bills. And so I think what you have now is a hole in the system where the $12 million that the localities have been paying on this is now evaporated. And so I think that if you don't address this bill, you got a $12 million hole in the budget, and I think that's going to fall on the state of Virginia. And right now, the localities have to pay that. But this opinion is pretty clear that pre-existing conditions don't have to be covered by the sheriff anymore. And the mental health is always a pre-existing condition. So if you want to do nothing about the mental health conditions in the jail, then vote this bill down. Or I don't think you need a clause on this bill, because it's saving the state $12 million, and it's keeping the localities in a position where they're responsible for it. And so I think that if you look at the language of the Attorney General's opinion and put that on top of 53.1-126, and then go to the statute that we've amended here, it's the only reasonable way to provide services in the jails. And so, I don't have any objection about putting the clause on there, because it's my understanding that if there's no physical impact, the bill becomes law. And so I don't have any objection putting the clause on there, but I think you got to realize that, if the bill doesn't go into existence, litigation is going to be mounted to try and figure out who's responsible for paying this. Because if I were the city of Virginia Beach and it was a pre-existing condition, I'd say I'm not going to pay it anymore.
Senator Hanger, he almost talks in language that would make one think he sat on the Senate Finance Committee at one time.
Somewhat, right.
On that, any questions of Sheriff Stiley? If not, Senator Donovan, do you have any closing remarks you'd like to add?
Just to summarize, this really does solve a lot of problems for us, not to mention the one that we were just made aware of, but this is going to standardize best practices. Board of Corrections is going to actually delineate, look at the trouble we've had in our jails recently. We need to find a way to start overcoming some of these hurdles. It also creates continuity between jails and the community, and I would venture that if the community services boards are concerned that this will burgeon their list of patients, these patients should be already on the CSB's list. If they don't have insurance when they come out, and some do, then these are people who are being set to the side and left idle until the CSB's can step in and do something. And we can't wait, because they're ending up in our hospitals or back in our jails, and we're paying. Not only are we paying, but we're subjecting those individuals to really tragic circumstances. I think this is the right thing to do. I think it's budget neutral, and I think we should move forward.
All right, let's see. Is there anyone who would like to speak briefly in favor of the bill? Yes, sir, and who are you?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm John Jones, representing the sheriffs. We're very much in favor of this bill, and what it does, it requires that the people in the community, including those in jail, get the same mental health services as those that are not in the jail. The CSB, or if the sheriff has a contract, another option that can do it. And on the clause and on the funding, the bill simply says that the sheriff enters the contract and submits it to the locality, and it's an important service that will need to be paid. We're very much in favor of it.
Thank you.
And it also, and what hasn't been said here this morning, is that it requires the Board of Corrections to establish standards for the provision of mental health services in local jails. That is very important and has not been done, and it dovetails with what the Deeds Commission is doing.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Nice to see you, sir. Anyone else who wants to speak in favor? Anyone who would like to speak in opposition to the bill? Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. My name is Jennifer Faison. I'm here on behalf of the Virginia Association of Community Services Boards. And forgive me for those of you who sit on this committee who have heard me speak on this before. Just would like to clarify a couple of things. The first is that while this contractual arrangement is optional to the sheriffs, in other words, if they have another provider that they're working with and they would like to keep that relationship, they can. But the moment that a sheriff says, we want the CSB to provide these services in our facility, then the CSB must contract with the sheriff for those services. So it really is a kind of a government mandated contract on the one side there for the CSB. In that if the sheriff requests it, the CSB must enter into a contract with them for these services. So, for example, if a CSB says to a sheriff, you know, we feel like according to clinical and ethical standards, these are the services that you need. We would need to hire a psychiatrist, or we would need to have, you know, X number of therapy hours provided, and it's going to cost you this much money. If the sheriff were to disagree with that, you know, someone would be in violation of the Code of Virginia at that point for not being able to come to terms on a contract. You know, under normal circumstances, two parties to a contract could choose to walk away. Under this circumstance, it would be mandatory for the CSB and the jail to come to terms if the sheriff would like that. So that's one point. Another thing that I'd like to point out is I don't disagree, and the association doesn't disagree with the part where there is a necessary process by which we need to look at some standards in the jails. The disagreement is about whether one of those standards must be a requirement that the CSB contract with the jail if a sheriff says that they would like to. You know, the other thing that I'd like to say is that both the Senate and the General Assembly as a whole agreed last year that the priority for our behavioral health system was going to rest with STEP Virginia, which is a model that provides 10 core services and supports, and that would even out those services and supports in the level of provision across all the CSBs. You know, estimates for the amount of funding that would be needed to fully implement this policy and decision-making process, it ranged somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 million to $220 million. And to date, the General Assembly has generously begun to finance portions of that. But another mandate for CSBs and the downstream cost of that really does kind of bump STEP Virginia and push that in a different direction. So I do think that the senator and the sheriff have a great idea for trying to figure out what some standards might be. Just a difference of opinion on you know, whether it's appropriate for the CSB to be providing services in a jail setting to individuals who may not have serious mental illness, and who then on the back end of that, the CSB would be required to serve in a way that, you know, the CSB has focused on serious mental illness in the past. This would be a shift in policy for them as well. So thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Wagner.
Have you been in a jail? Have you physically been in a jail and seen the mentally ill patients in there?
I have not been in a jail specifically to see mentally ill patients.
Mr. Chairman, let me just say this. I have taken the opportunity at Senator Stolley, Sheriff Stolley's invitation to go down there. If there is ever an appropriate place for a community service board to be involved, knowing that eventually these folks are either going to come back out into the community, is there ever a place that you want to head it off at the pass? I would highly recommend that the community service board, every one of them, take the time to actually physically go down to their jails and take a look at what deputy sheriffs have to do to be able to do that. I wonder why the community service board would even be resisting any of this, but I'll leave it at that. Okay?
If I might address that
Yes, ma'am.
very
Please
briefly.
do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would say that there are any number of programs that the community services boards do provide in conjunction with the jails, including some inpatient therapy when the resources at the CSB are available. We served thousands of individuals either in a jail setting or on the back end of that with some robust discharge planning, which really is absolutely the correct place for the Community Services Board to be inserted into that process. And in addition, there is some funding in the budget right now that would allow for some continued and robust discharge planning to occur. And so I think that that would be an appropriate focus if we're looking for funding to try to make that connection a little bit more robust.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask one more question. Do you think that a trained technician from the CSB or a deputy sheriff, who better to assist that particular inmate with the issues that he has? Who do you think's in a better position based on background and training to handle that particular person?
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that there are contracts in the jails that are, some of them ride on the medical contract. I'm sure the sheriff would be able to speak more to that, but it's not a question of no services being delivered by a person with experience in behavioral health versus a CSB doing it. So there's a requirement for the provision of those services. How the sheriff arranges to provide those services differs from facility to facility.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Anyone else who has an opposing opinion? If not, ladies and gentlemen, Senate Bill, I apologize, I didn't see you coming up. Thank you very much. Good morning.
She's not fully opposed.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the committee. I'm Sherry Neal, Intergovernmental Affairs Manager for the City of Portsmouth. And I'm not opposing the bill. I have just a slight concern, and it may or may not be a valid one, for the CSB in Portsmouth, being that we have the regional jail seated there, and our CSB has the least amount of employees compared to all of the other CSBs in the region. They probably already send their mentally ill to the regional, but if not, I'm just a little concerned that it may impose another problem for our CSBs.
We should take great comfort in knowing that Senator Lucas will be looking out for you.
Mr. Chairman. She does a good job at that.
Mr. Chairman, and I promise that I would do my best, but I'd like to associate my remarks with those of Senator Wagner. Senator Stawley, Sheriff Stawley has made the effort to reach out to many of us who sit on these committees to make sure that we are aware of what the impact is down there. And I just want to let you know that I appreciate that because it gave me a better feel for what I need to be looking at in the other 11 political jurisdictions that I represent, Portsmouth being one of them. And we've looked at those issues, and there is a tremendous need to upgrade these services.
Senator Lucas was relieved that you let her out.
Correct, that one too.
All right, let's see where we.
Could I just clarify a couple of things? I'm so sorry, just since this is a
Very
last chance.
succinctly. I
Succinctly.
think the bill is in good shape.
This directs the CSBs to contract. The guidelines of the mental health would be determined by the Board of Corrections, not by the sheriff. The subject matter experts are the healthcare providers. It's an opportunity. This will be fully funded. Additional positions for Portsmouth and Chesapeake would be funded by the jails.
Yeah, okay.
So I just wanted to clarify those few points because I think it gets a little confusing. But this is actually an opportunity, not a burden.
Senator Dance, I apologize, I didn't see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Having worked on the local side and been here on the Senate side and understanding the need for the bill that's here, I still have a sense of hesitancy that as far as how quickly we're moving on this, the fact that we do have STEP Virginia that has been worked on, monies have been given to help those with mental health issues, and this is addressing part of it. This is like a piece of the puzzle that might need to be added to the major piece that's being addressed. But this is a piece of the puzzle. And right now, we've worked on trying to get mental health to people from day one from our community services boards versus 20 days later that they come in, that we take care of them. And it's up the pace on the staffing, on the just look at the whole approach to this. I don't think anybody disagree with this approach, but I just wonder if we're moving too fast in one piece of the puzzle, because it's an important piece of mental health, but it is a piece of the puzzle. So I'm hoping at the end of this, there's going to be a clause and there's going to be some discussion that there is some inclusiveness with the community services boards and whatever we do.
Senator Hanger, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, it was the recommendation of the subcommittee that the bill, as with the substitute as amended, be reported. And just to frame the issue briefly, it's actually a great policy. It's one of the better bills I've seen this session. The only problem I have with it is my name's not on it. But
We can fix that.
that's all right.
Probably why it's done so well.
But we're going to have to continue to work. We're in a posture right now where we have a mental health commission. Senator Barker, Senator Howell serve on that along as I. And we've got a package of like $70 million in initiatives for STEP Virginia and other things that we want to do, which are on the table at the same time that we're probably going to have to pull $421 million out of the budget. I want to fight to keep that there. I think this has to be a priority. But you're going to see, I believe, Sheriff Stolle, over the next year, a significant change in the CSB delivery system, working with the folks at the CSBs, the 40 of them, in terms of how that's done. At least we're going to propose that. And this will fit in well. It outlines it. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I move again that we report the bill.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 878 be reported. Is any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, open the roll, please. If you report the vote, please, sir.
Ayes 15, noes 1.
Ayes 15, noes 1. The bill is reported, and congratulations to the extended Stolle family.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, we have two more bills that I can quickly cover, and then I see Senator Peake out there for another bill. But Senator Peake also had Senate Bill 835 that was heard by the committee, dealing with the potential closure of the Central Virginia Training Center. It was the recommendation of the subcommittee that the bill be continued to 2019, but that we committed ourselves to putting some language in the budget, hopefully, that will give us some direction for the Central Virginia Training Center, and that would be our effort to provide perhaps some limited remaining facility there in Madison Heights. So I move that we continue Senate Bill 835 to 2019.
Is there a second?
Tell her, you didn't know him like
Senator Peake, is there anything you'd like to say, sir?
Not only is it going to
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would note that there were several votes to not table the bill and to keep it alive. I'd still like to keep it alive and send it out. That's all I have to say.
Kind of like Saturday Night Fever, right? Staying
Staying alive.
Stay alive.
Okay.
Just
Thank you.
love to
I
see
think there was a
another day.
commitment, and Senator Newman was involved with that. Obviously, we're going to work on this in the budget and hopefully chart a course of action for Central Virginia in Madison Heights. We have an oversight committee that is working on this, and hopefully we'll have a meeting down there as well after the session is over. So again, I think the proper action for us to do would be to continue the bill while we have those discussions.
It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 835 be carried over for the year. If you'd open the roll, please, sir. If you would report the vote, sir.
Ayes 16, noes 0.
Thank you, Senator Peake. The bill will be carried over to the
Thank you.
2019 session.
Mr. Chairman, the final item that we acted on, Senate Bill 804, Senator Carrico's bill, was a bill dealing with controlled substance overdoses and creation of a data system. As it happened, we have a bill that was reported from General Laws yesterday that we'll be hearing tomorrow. And so it would be our intent to pass this bill by for the day and to roll this bill into that bill with Senator Carrico being a chief patron of that bill. So I would just move that we pass Senate Bill 804 by for the day.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 804 be passed by for the day with the expectation of rolling it into another bill. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Does that complete your report, Senator?
Yes, it does. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Senator Peake, we'll hear your remaining bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Which ones are we going to start with?
341? 341, Senator Peake.
civil asset forfeitures. I know the committee has heard these before and looked at these. I have a bill. Instead of looking at finances, we're looking at constitutional rights. And I think it's important to protect our constitutional rights, and that's what this bill does. I don't think any citizen's property should be seized by the government and sold without charging and convicting that person of a crime. And of course, if they're enter into a plea agreement, that they're being convicted of a crime and the seizure holds. But the committee's heard these bills. I think that stands on its own of what the principle is. It's unconstitutional. And then when you look at the finance report, which is, I think I've heard you indicate is what kind of your focus is in this committee, there's no financial impact of this protecting our constitutional freedom. So I would ask that the bill pass and or be reported out. I don't know if anybody's here.
Okay, we'll find out, Senator Peake. Are there individuals here to speak for this bill?
Mr. Chairman, before they speak, can I?
Yeah, Senator Carrico.
Mr. Chairman, just to give you a little background on this bill, in 2015, I introduced the same bill. That bill went to a study, and the study was done by the Crime Commission, which is right here. Crime Commission, and I'll just give you, there's an executive summary, but in that study found, overall staff found that Virginia's current statute and practice balances the interest of property owners and the Commonwealth, while additional protections for citizens could be implemented in Virginia, which we did in 2016, I think, after the study was done, by taking it from the preponderance of evidence to clear and convincing evidence. No direct evidence was found of systematic abuse of the asset forfeiture process by law enforcement or prosecutors. What we're talking about is property that were seized by individuals or by law enforcement from individuals who a lot of time put property in other people's names in order to be able to use it. So what they're doing is taking drug dealers' money and properties, and they're using it for enforcement values. The problem is a lot of the cases, and I don't know that Senator Peake, I couldn't institute any Virginia cases where abuse was occurred. Most of the cases came from federal cases where they did it administratively. All the cases that we heard where abuse existed were federal cases where they took the property administratively. So that the other cases where asset forfeiture is instituted as non-drug related cases, such as child pornography, cigarette trafficking, computer crimes, felony DUIs, gambling, money laundering, moonshining, bootlegging, prostitution, and transportation of stolen goods, which that money goes into the literary fund. So what we're talking about is people who are committing crimes, and they come to court and they plead, they do a plea bargain, and they allow the Commonwealth to keep that money because it's not theirs. They're using it for illegal use. That's a background on what Senator Peake's bill, which I introduced in 2015, and the Crime Commission put a lot of work in to determine what Virginia was doing and how they were doing it, and constitutionally what they were doing was right. And so I know Senator Peake has witnesses and feels differently than I do, but the bill originated with me, and that's the reason I wanted to give you an overview of what happened.
Thank you,
Thank you, Senator Carrico. Senator Peake, then.
Thank you, Senator Carrico. And if Senator Carrico, if it's correct, if they're being charged with a crime, pleading to a crime, they're complying with this statute already.
Right.
We just want to protect against any possible abuse, and I just submit the government should not take people's property without charging them and convict them of a crime. And any kind of plea agreement or resolution in court can handle that. And as far as if they're putting in somebody else's name, this bill does not prevent them from proving that the drug dealer or the child pornographer actually owns the property or it's actually his cash and can do that. So
Okay.
Thank
With
you.
that, with your permission, Senator Peake, we'll hear from someone supporting and then maybe someone a couple minutes, maybe some reservations, okay?
Mr. Chair, members, Bill Farrow with ACLU of Virginia. On behalf of our 42,000 members across the Commonwealth, we strongly support the bill.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Steve Rossi, and in the Strange but True, the Family Foundation, the ACLU do agree on this.
There's something going on here.
Yeah, right. Just briefly, we believe the role and jurisdiction of government is clearly prescribed by our Constitution, and that consequently should be restrained from excessive involvement in people's lives. So we think this bill fits that principle. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Someone that could frame the concerns about this?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm David Ledbetter. I'm the Commonwealth's Attorney of the City of Waynesboro. I'm here on behalf of the Virginia Association of Commonwealth's Attorneys, and we stand opposed to the bill. Many of the reasons have already been put forth by Senator Carrico in his comments. And the question is, for a constitutional standard, is that the Commonwealth shall not deprive somebody of their property without due process of law. We, as Commonwealth's attorneys, would submit there is adequate due process in place. We must file a suit to seize property. We must provide them service. They have the right to stay the actions by asking the court. They have full efforts of discovery. They have the right to a trial by jury, and the legal standard for us to take the property is clear and convincing evidence, a much higher standard than in most civil cases. As Senator Carrico pointed out, the issue is often the drug dealers do not hold the property in their own name. I've got a case right now, got a young man, second offense narcotics distribution. He's driving around in a car that's titled in his sister's name. We seized out of the car a gun, 4 ounces of cocaine, and $19,000. He claims the $19,000 is grandma's $19,000. Under the bills that stand, I'm not criminally charging grandma, but I would have to criminally charge grandma in order to seize what we know is the proceeds of narcotics distribution. Likewise, I'm not charging the sister because while the sister does know he's driving the car, there's no evidence she knows what he's doing out of the car. Those things I would provide notice civilly to grandma, provide notice civilly to the sister, and they would have the right to defend against that. And there is adequate due process in place. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Zaslow wants to lock grandma up, I think.
Zaslow wants to lock up everybody.
The other Commonwealth, so y'all just standing with him?
We're here with them as well.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm John Jones, representing the sheriffs. We very much oppose the bill. Senator Carrico has done a great job of explaining it. The Crime Commission looked at this intensively, did a great study, and we did clean up the code in a couple of areas. We don't do, we found one or two exceptions where a deputy or an officer would do a roadside waiver. That's been stopped, and we agree that that shouldn't happen. The abuses that brought this whole thing up were mostly in other states, brought about by, media stories and in the federal process. And I do know that I got a call from the staffers in Congress wanting to see what Virginia did. And we sent them what the Crime Commission did. And I think they actually improved some of the federal statutes based on the work of the Crime Commission and the General Assembly by increasing the standard last year on the Senator Carrico's bill. So we very much oppose the bill. We think it's already been addressed.
All right. Senator Peake, you want to wrap it up?
Mr. Chairman, before Senator Peake.
Yes, Senator Carrico.
I know he represented there was no cost, but there is a cost. When you take money and you hold it in escrow, if there is a process, which Senator Peake realizes that if you charge someone, it takes 2 to 3 years sometimes if he has a good attorney like Senator Peake to put it off, that revenue if it's returned, has to have interest applied to it. So the Commonwealth has a cost to retain the revenue, the money, and what that interest that may have occurred on that money. The other part is if it's property and it's given back, it has to be in the condition that it's in. So there has to be an upkeep and storage of that property by the Commonwealth or by those agencies. So there is an undetermined cost of what that would be if we do a conviction.
Okay.
Briefly in response, if Senator Carrico is correct and they take it, they're going to be getting plea agreements and convictions, so they're going to keep it. They just said was not significant. And to the point of not, grandma's $19,000, possessions 9/10 of the law. You catch the guy with it on him, it's his, and they can prove that. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Members of the committee, you've heard Senator Peake. I had a question mark on this. I believe the preponderance of evidence is pushing the other way now, but we'll see what the committee thinks. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to PBI.
Motion properly supported to pass the bill by. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 12, noes 3.
Ayes 12, noes 3. The bill is passed by. Senator Peake, I believe you have another bill.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I believe Senate Bill number 352, which is presumptive illnesses for firefighters. And I believe y'all have done something pretty similar with Senator McPike's.
Yes,
Considered something similar.
if you wouldn't have a problem with that particularly, what we had done, we had 3 bills last week, and then this would be the second one this week where, because we had just recently closed out some adjustments in LODA and working comp, that we thought we would carry the bills over and have a work group take a look at all of them.
I understand it's a pretty significant issue. Did anybody travel here to speak would be the only
Yes,
thing?
yes, certainly. If anybody's here that traveled to speak to the bill, we'd be pleased to hear them.
Okay, if not.
Otherwise, you, okay,
I
we'll do that?
understand.
Okay.
Yes.
I think the Senator Peake is understanding that we would carry this bill over. Is there a motion? Motion properly supported that the bill, that is Senate Bill 352, dealing with the presumption of compensability for certain diseases. As written, it includes a retroactive application, that it would be continued with the understanding that we're going to have a work group look at this group of bills. Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 14, noes 1.
Ayes 14, noes 1. The bill is continued to 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Peake. Okay, I believe now we're down to members' initiatives. We have Senator Carrico and Senator Howe. You have bills that are related in a way. Senator Carrico and Senator Howe, do y'all want to present them now or later? Well, they're only related in that you're both attempting to get some money. Okay. Oh, great. Got you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have Senate Bill 827, and that bill deals with fees for courthouse and courtroom security. What the bill does is very simply changes the amount that can be charged from $10 to $20. It is the first time it would be raised in 10 years. The last time was in 2007. It is optional for localities. They may or may not have any fees at all, or they can go up to $20. And it would generate almost $14 million if everybody who possibly could implement it did. That is not the expectation, but it's possibly that much. And it would be an increase in the fee of $10, up to $10.
Okay, this bill we've seen before. We actually passed it, and it was left in the House.
In the House,
Right.
yes.
Okay, anyone here to speak to this bill? Sheriff Jones?
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman. I'm John Jones, representing the sheriffs. We support the bill. Obviously, we have in the past as a standalone bill. The Appropriations Act prohibits more than 2 deputies in a courtroom and more than 1 deputy in a courtroom and no deputies in a courtroom, depending on what court it is. And sometimes judges need more deputies than that, but the compensation board standards and the Appropriations Act standards don't allow for that. the localities are responsible for securing the courthouse. The deputies that are provided by the state only secure the courtroom. So in some of these large courthouses, we must put a deputy at the door and man the magnetometer, and that's what this money would be used for courthouse security personnel and equipment as approved by the sheriff. Currently, there are Compensation Board and Appropriations Act standards on courthouse and courtroom security. Those standards are 124 deputies short that sheriffs have vacancies that are not funded in the Appropriations Act for $4.3 million. And so we very much support the bill.
Okay. All right. Sheriff Stolly?
I just want to try and put this in perspective. When I became sheriff, my budget was about $35 million, and about half of that was from the state and half of it's from the city, or half of it's from the state and half of it's from the city. Now my budget's about $48 million, and the state's gone down $1 million, and the city's picked up the rest of the funding of that. So they've contributed. They're about $25 million now. It was about $17 million, and so, you know, any money that we can bring back from the state that doesn't come out of the state coffers is a good idea, and I think this is a very good bill. And I
Okay.
appreciate Janet carrying it.
Thank you, Sheriff. Local government likes this, I believe. Okay, you want to?
Katie Boyle. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Katie Boyle, Virginia Association of Counties. We support the bill. Thank you.
Okay,
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Claudia Arco with Fairfax County, and we support the bill as well.
okay. Anyone here to speak in opposition to the bill? Would raise $13.6 million per year for this purpose. Motion properly supported that the bill be reported. That is Senate Bill 827. Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll. Ayes 11, noes 3. The bill is reported. Thank you, Senator Howe. Oh, we need to. Did you get it? Can you record her vote? He's got you. You wanted to vote for or against? Okay, okay. All right, you're recorded. Not up there, but he's got you down here. Yeah. All right, the bill is reported. Senator Carrico.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, now if you'll just give me the 13.6 million that created, we won't need my bill.
Okay. Well, it kind of helped, didn't it?
So you heard last week the theory behind this, and I met with several sheriffs in my region. I represent a lot of very rural counties that don't have interstates or anything that a lot of the sheriffs, and it's true, in the 8 counties and city that I represent, I have a split constituency that agrees and disagrees on this method. But I realize coming here that having been here for the last 17 years, I've been told that unless you can find the money to fund what you're trying to do, then don't try to do it. And so unlike the state police, when they write summonses, their money goes into a literary fund and it generates money for education. When localities adopt the code that we have, they are able to keep that money in their coffers locally. And basically what this bill does is it attempts to go after the $31 million generated every year by law enforcement for the localities. And it takes 20% of that, which is $6.2 million, and it puts it in a fund by the state for the localities that have not yet met that threshold of supplement for up to 20%. So there's counties all over the state that have failed to give their law enforcement deputies a 20% supplement. A lot of counties have already got to that level and above it. What this does is take $6 million of the $30.1 million that is generating by adopting the code and local ordinances that localities are able to keep locally, and it puts it in a fund, and it allows those counties to draw down that money to supplement their deputies by 20%. And it only affects law enforcement, certified deputies, not jailers, because it is generated by law enforcement deputies, not corrections. And that's what the bill does. It's a unique way of approaching things, but, you know, we don't have that with the state police because we put all their money in a literary fund. And every ticket written by the state police, you just heard Senator Howe's bill, those tickets also generate the money for the court security. So every ticket the state police and localities write, there's that fee that they get from those tickets also. So this is just a way to try to direct that money back to law enforcement of the $31 million that they generate each year.
Okay.
And I would like to ask Senator Stolley if he'd like to come up and support the bill.
You might be putting Sheriff on the spot on that one.
Yeah, well, I think he's going to be up here, and it won't be for support.
Is there anyone here to speak to the bill? That would, yes.
Mr. Chairman, John Jones again. First of all, I want to thank Senator Carrico. He's always trying to help these deputy sheriffs and law enforcement groups. We appreciate that. But we do not support the bill because, well, there are a number of reasons. For the first time, this bill would treat classes of deputies differently. And he spoke to law enforcement and jailers. But what the bill would do, it would take the deputy that works in the courtroom 5 days a week, 9 to 5, and give him a substantial pay increase, but not give the jailers an increase that work, shift work all night and work in a grueling atmosphere. So we want to hang out classes of deputies together, which good for one is good for all. That's has been our association position for a number of years. There are 10 localities that do no supplements in Virginia, and that number is way down. 5, 6 years ago when I came in, there were like 20 or 30. More and more localities are doing supplements, and if you move money from a jurisdiction that has money to a jurisdiction that does not have money, we think that it may be an incentive to not supplement. The locality is going to say, well, I haven't reached that threshold, so why should I supplement if I'm going to be able to get the fine money that another locality has generated? On the issue of the fine money, we had a skirmish on that, as you know, a few years ago, and it resulted in an extensive study done by the Office of the Inspector General. And as a result of that, there were a lot of conclusions reached in it, but it is constitutional. The money is generated locally. It goes to the local government, and the key to it is that it is appropriated by the locally elected officials to whatever they want. Some of it, a lot of it may go to law enforcement, but some of it may not go to law enforcement. And when you go into those localities and say you've got to give up 20%, you're creating a hole there. And we're concerned about that. And I've gotten a lot of calls from sheriffs that are concerned about it, and that's why they would have a concern on this bill. So
okay,
that's why we're opposed.
Thank you. Are there other speakers on this bill? Either way, okay. Actually, Senator Carrico, that when John was talking about the history of those local ordinances and the money that's kept there locally, maybe something to work on would be to capture all of that money, put it in a pot and redistribute it. I'm not sure, but
Well, you know, the disadvantage, and he talked about that, the disadvantage is the rural areas that don't have interstate. It's like fishing.
Right.
They're fishing in a creek.
Right.
When you have the interstate counties, they're fishing in the ocean. There's a lot more fish in the ocean. And, you know, it's disproportionate by way of what your county has as far as arteries in which people travel. So I'm just trying to supplement law enforcement outside of those areas that are desperately in need of that increase. And you may be right. We may need to look at the whole amount and distribute it equally. I don't know, but I'm just looking at what I was addressed with, and it was about a $4.5 million number that would do that for the counties that don't have it. The remaining amount that would have been left would have been the opportunity for them to draw down for mental health transportation. So,
okay.
Which is another problem.
Senator Carrico and I are usually real allies on these issues, and we both recognize that law enforcement is severely underfunded, and we try and come up with creative ways to find funding. But I have real concerns with this one. It's a perverse incentive. It's taking money from those localities that are stepping up and putting in a supplement and transferring it to those that are not. And I think we should be very wary of that kind of perverse action.
Okay.
And a lot of those localities, Mr. Chairman, have revenues. They have businesses that the county is wealthy enough to do that. But when you have counties that are struggling economically, they just don't have the money, that's where the problem arises.
Right. Okay, I would agree we probably need to fix it. I'm not sure that this bill does it. Do you want to continue the bill? What's your pleasure?
I mean, if you're asking me, I'd move the report.
What's the pleasure of the committee then? Second? Motion properly supported to continue the bill, Senate Bill 495 to the 2019 session. For discussion, hearing none, clerk open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll. Okay, ayes 15, noes 1. The bill is continued to the 2019 session. Does that clear all bills except for the transportation report? Which one we got there yet? 884. Okay, Senator McDougal. We'll get you. We'll get you. We'll get you.
Mr. Chairman, Senate Bill 884. Mr. Chairman, this deals with fees to the Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. Right now, the way the bill is structured, the application fee for an annual banquet or annual mixed beverage license, a banquet event or special event license would increase, but most significantly, the wine shipper and beer shipper license fees would increase. Mr. Chairman, there was a study that has been begun by ABC to determine, and what that is determined is that the licensing fees currently charged do not cover the cost of enforcement that those fees go to. This will not fix that hole. When they originally came up with the numbers, they actually thought the numbers were twice what our crack staff has determined that they actually are, and those numbers still were less than the cost of enforcement. But, Mr. Chairman, I don't know, maybe you should ask Travis from ABC, after just heard that ABC can absorb $4 million under Senator Reeves' bill. I don't know that they need any additional money.
Okay.
So he might want to comment on that.
Well, let's ask Travis that question then, or something, or just ask him for a comment.
Certainly, the concern we expressed on Senator Reeves' bill earlier was there was a revenue impact on that bill that we captured. This one, our enforcement budget is a separate budget item. It is intended to fund our operations. What we found in the study that we conducted in 2017 is that we do not generate the revenue to fund those operations. So we worked with stakeholders. They suggested this approach of taking an incremental approach on capturing some additional revenue. As you heard in that earlier testimony, the alcohol beverage industry is growing tremendously. We have an over 200-to-1 licensee to agent ratio right now, and we are trying to bring additional enforcement capacity into an industry that is growing rapidly with a lot of new entrants who have not necessarily understood the rules of the alcohol beverage industry that can be fairly complicated. So this is a first step to try to capture those, and specifically the wine shippers fee. Virginia is one of the top states to receive direct shipments of wine. What we're seeing is a lot of shipments are coming in that are unlicensed, and we're trying to get a handle on that as well.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone here with concerns about this bill other than Senator McDougal?
Mr. Chairman, Tom Lisk, representing the Virginia Restaurant, Lodging, and Travel Association. And we fully support ABC getting more money for enforcement resources. We think they need more enforcement resources, and we were supportive of this, I think, a very tailored approach, increasing one-time application fees for most licensees. We would only note a concern, and it's not with this bill, but a concern with, at the same time that this committee is voting to increase these fees, you're also voted to give more money from ABC back to distillers, and it seems to be conflicting messages. We think ABC needs more resources. We support more resources going there, but we're concerned that some of that money then is turning around and being given to private businesses to what we think fund unfair competition.
Okay.
But
All
we
right.
support more resources in Senator McDougal's
Okay.
bill.
All right. So it's qualified support,
Yeah,
okay?
Mr. Chairman, Bill Boykin, Virginia Beer Wholesalers. I want to associate myself with Mr. List's comment and do want to stress we need enforcement out there. We need more agents on the street. It's a real problem out there. At least we're seeing that in the middle tier. And we support this as long as those fees go to fund new officers on the street. So,
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Cal Whitehead Wine Institute, representing the California wine industry. We also support the bill as we want the agency to have a robust enforcement ability. Do want to recognize that this is a part of a larger look at the fees at the ABC and for the direct shippers who are included in this bill, make sure that they're not dinged again and as the process goes forward and appropriate changes are made across the board.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anyone here in opposition to the bill? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Mr. Chairman, you might want to put a clause on this, so if you end up funding the $4 million, that you don't impose this additional fee on anybody, but.
Okay, that's interesting. You want the clause.
A reverse contingency clause.
Okay. All in favor of the clause signify by saying aye.
Not that this, it would be different because this money is in the budget. So
Right,
you'll have-
right.
If it doesn't
It would be.
pass, you're going to create a hole.
You really want the clause?
No.
Okay. Okay. We'll pull those motions back. What's the pleasure of the committee? Motion properly supported to report the bill. That is Senate Bill 884. Further discussion, hearing none, clerk open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll. Whoop, excuse me, I forgot to cast my proxy for Carrico. Can you add him? Yes. Okay. As 14 then, knows one. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Senator Obenchain, you have a series of bills here that were on a page that I hadn't looked at.
Mr. Chairman, first I've got Senate Bill 525, which is the...
Is there a substitute on that one?
Yes, or there's a line amendment.
Line amendment? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, on line 48, after 25th, strike 3 and insert 4. And this is a technical amendment.
On the 25th, not 3 and insert 4.
So
Okay.
moved.
I like, yeah, the 25th, I have to pay attention to that one, don't I?
You do.
Okay, Senator Obenchain, all those in favor of that amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that amendment is adopted.
And, Mr. Chairman, speaking of this bill, this is simply the annual adjustment to the number of authorized circuit and general district court judges made in conjunction with the findings of the National Center for State Courts and their 2017 workload analysis. This essentially has taken the provincial tendencies of our members out of the equation, or sought to do so, and to apply a quantitative analysis to trying to figure out the workload and number of judges that each of the circuits and districts need.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman,
I think, Senator McDougal?
question, the amendment that just passed, did the workload report come back and include four for that particular circuit as well?
My understanding was yes, but I hope, and I don't mind this going by until I confirm that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, because I know in Senator Stewart and my circuit, we lost a JDR judge, and so certainly not keen on that, but if that's where the study is.
And it's not my intention to alter that, so if you want this to go by temporarily.
You have held by.
It does? Okay.
You do? Which court was that?
It's the 25th General District.
General District, okay.
Yes,
Which is
and
General
if you-
District,
if
right.
you
But
look-
four is the right number there, I think.
Yes, if you look on line 90, it reflects it. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, Christy Wright, Office of the Executive Secretary, Senator McDougal. That was just an error when, in drafting. That 4 is from, it had a delayed enactment clause on it. You can see that this number, it had already been changed and it was going to be, and so, well, I'm sorry, I'm being confusing. There was 2 jurisdictions, the 25th and I believe the 19th, that there were delayed enactment clauses. This statute was added by Legislative Services. As you can see, it's only effective until July 1, which is when this entire bill would go into effect anyway. And so it was not amended. If you'll see on, as I said, on line 90, it does show the 4, so those are consistent. The statute will go away as of July 1, but for whatever reason, they suggested or wanted to have it included in the bill.
Okay. Okay, all right. I think that seemed to clear that up, recognizing this is the study. These are then the guidelines, whether we fund them or not remains within the purview of the budget.
Understood.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to report.
Motion properly supported to report the bill that is Senate Bill 525 as amended. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. There we go. Oh, I got to wait a minute, let me do mine here. Hold just a second here, I got to make this thing work. There we go. Close the roll, please.
Ayes 15, noes 1.
Okay, ayes 15, noes 1. The board is not right up there, but my board is showing 15-1. The bill is reported.
All right, Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
second bill I have is Senate Bill 564, and this is one that I may want to consider adding the financial contingency clause to. This is a bill that was requested by the circuit court clerks. It is a compromise arising out of a lawsuit that was filed by the Daily Press about 18 months ago, seeking from circuit courts a data compilation that there was a dispute as to whether it was data owned by the Supreme Court or by the circuit courts. This compromise is one between the Office of the Executive Secretary, the clerks, the Daily Press, Press Association, Open Government folks. Courts Committee looked at this, approved the policy. I think the financial aspect of this is $191,000 that I think is is something that we're going to need to take a look at.
Okay.
But I would respectfully submit that this is sound policy that promotes open government.
Okay.
clarity.
There's been a suggestion that we add the clause. I think that would be in order.
So moved.
Motion properly supported to add the financial contingency clause. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Second.
Okay. Motion properly supported to report the bill as amended. Clerk, open the roll.
Roll is open.
Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
And
Ayes 16, noes 0.
Ayes 16, no 0. The bill is reported.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, I've got Senate Bill 980, This is also a bill that I would ask the committee to attach the financial contingency clause to. We have been working to reduce the fiscal impact of this. It's work in progress, and if this continues to work its way through, working with the Supreme Court and the Circuit Court clerks, I think I can address many of the Circuit Court clerks' issues. I've been working with Mr. Dix towards that end. But let me tell you just briefly what this is. 20 years ago, the United States courts, the federal courts, adopted actually a requirement that if you're going to file pleadings in the federal courts, you have to do it electronically. And for 20 years, we've been waiting and working and waiting for the circuit court clerks and the Supreme Court to get together and decide the proper way that we can achieve electronic filing here in Virginia. It's way overdue. It is it's a manpower saver. Ultimately, it is going to make circuit court clerks' offices a lot more efficient. You've seen the space requirements decreased in the deed rooms by virtue of electronic filing and digitizing of deeds. This is going to do exactly the same thing in the court, the litigation files, and we just need to get it started. So, Mr. Chairman, this is a bill that is going to require the implementation of electronic filing by July of next year. We've got some work that needs to be done. The compromise is kind of in the works, and I think if we attach the financial contingency, it prevents us from doing something improvident, but this is an important policy consideration. We need to move forward with this.
Okay. All right, Senator Obenchain has moved that we attach the financial contingency clause. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor of adding that clause signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, you have the bill in front of you, which I think both of the last bill and this bill will be a matter of then our lawyers and others looking at to establish how we can afford this, if we can afford this. So what's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to report.
Motion properly supported to report Senate Bill 980 as amended. Further discussion? Hearing none, clerk open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk close the roll.
Ayes 16, no zero.
Ayes 16, no zero. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Obenchain. Now we're down to the transportation. Okay. Sir Wagner, you have a bill and you have your transportation subcommittee report. Yeah. All righty.
Mr. Chairman, I have Senate Bill 985. As you know, there's been a lot of discussion around a new secretary for recurrent flooding, sea level rise. This is an attempt at a modem of compromise to set up and establish a non-federal sponsor under the Commonwealth of Virginia to act as a coordinator for all of these functions that are so important to us, whether you subscribe to sea level rising, land subsidence, or the fact that major parts of Virginia are built on fill and it's settling, or any combination of all three. There's no question that recurrent flooding is becoming an increasingly serious issue. The federal government has taken significant action and under the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers auspices to address these problems. As usual with most federal programs, it requires an effort from the state and localities as partners to address some of these problems. Currently, we're kind of spread over several agencies, Mr. Chairman, and what this is an attempt to do without establishing a new secretariat is to establish an office that centralizes, performs the functions, coordination of the capital projects, increasing flood risk awareness and implementation of enhanced building codes and zoning standards. So this is a new Virginia Hurricane and Flood Risk Reduction Authority as opposed to retaining a full secretariat. Now, I understand it has a fairly large fiscal impact. That would assume that all of a sudden we create and ramp up a 13-person office, and that's what those numbers are. So, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that we put the clause on this and see what funding may be available as we go through the budget process with both the House and the Senate. I know the House feels very strong, or at least some House members on this, but I'm not sure that I'm personally to the level of establishing a secretariat. But I do think, because it cuts across so many agencies, that perhaps we ought to have a single authority focused on this particular issue and coordinating the projects, and also working with the Corps of Engineers as a partner in this to address a problem that's certainly a major problem in my neck of the woods, but in certain other areas of the state. So that's what the bill does, Mr. Chairman, and I would recommend that we put the clause on, and I would so move and then recommend the bill be reported.
Okay. You're offering that as a motion then. Is there a second? All those in favor of adding the financial contingency clause will signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Yeah, the notes here indicate that if it fully ramped up immediately, it'd be $2.5 million a year.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, and I don't think we're ready to fully ramp up, but I certainly would like to get started down this road, and we may be able to find some money as we move through the budget process to be able to start to fund this organization and move forward.
Okay.
So,
okay. Anyone here to speak on this measure? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Bob Mathias, City of Virginia Beach. We believe there's no greater threat to the economic well-being of the state other than outside of sequestration than recurrent flooding. It's affecting everybody east of the fall line, whether it's Alexandria, Arlington, Tangier Island. Farmland down in Virginia Beach and Chesapeake is being submerged because of water coming in from the Albemarle-Palmaco Sound. This issue needs to be addressed. This is a way to do it. There are other ways, but this is certainly a great start. Thank you.
All right. What's the pleasure of the committee? I believe there was, had you offered the motion?
yes, I did.
Is there a second? Second. Motion properly supported to report the bill as amended. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 13, no zero.
Ayes 13, no zero. The bill is reported, Senator Wagner.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Wagner, you have your transportation.
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman, and if we would, I'd like to take up Senator Peterson's bill and recommend that bill, the committee recommended by a vote of 5-0, that bill be rolled into my bill, and I would so move, Mr. Chairman, so that we have the two bills combined. I believe that's.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second? Motion properly supported that Senate Bill 140 be rolled into Senate Bill 896. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Senator Wagner.
Okay, now, Mr. Chairman, with that bill rolled into my particular bill by a vote of 5-0, the one abstention that the subcommittee reporter recommended this bill be reported. What it does is address the issue of the floors. As you know, Mr. Chairman, when we went through the massive negotiation on House Bill 2313, 3-4 years ago, that addressed the funding issues and added $1 billion in new funding, as that negotiation went on, we were settled on the idea of using a sales tax for gasoline and diesel fuel. The issue came up, what if fuel prices dropped? We would no longer be having $1 billion on a straight sales tax. So at that point, we recognized that, put the floor in on the statewide, but an omission on our part as we went through the negotiations is to include that floor on both the regional taxes, both for Northern Virginia as well as Hampton Roads. What that's done is cause a fluctuating revenue source in Hampton Roads and in Northern Virginia that has caused some problems. And let me explain real quickly what that is. As part of the Northern Virginia, this floor has become an essential part of the overall WMATA funding issue that we're looking at right now. With the state, I think we're committed, at least I'm committed to finding $150 million of money to address Virginia's portion of the needs of WMATA. This floor represents an essential element of building that $150 million block to support the good care and maintenance of the existing metro system up there. What it's done in our region is created a fluctuating source of revenue as we look to move forward with the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel. It's going to require us to go out and bond basically the vast majority of that project. what happens now is we have a stable source of revenue based on sales tax. So our first bond submissions and our first receiving of dollars, we've gotten very competitive interest rates on those bonds. We're saving the taxpayers literally millions of dollars in the future as these bonds are paid off, millions of dollars. By making this level, what we will do is provide stability for the remaining source of revenue for the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission. By putting a floor on there, we can then go out and bond and get these extremely low interest rates. So without the floor, in effect, the citizens of Hampton Roads, plus anybody else that uses the project, is going to be paying a lot more money than if we had the floor and be doing that. So while, yes, I'll come out and say, yeah, it is a increase by establishing the floor. In the long run, it'll be a net decrease to the taxpayers and the people who have to use these projects. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, by a vote of 5-0-1, the subcommittee voted to report this bill, and I said, oh, wait a minute, we have one amendment, and that is in the Hampton Roads area, we are going from the wholesale level and applying that tax at the distribution level. Mr. Chairman, I would move that.
Is that included in the substitute?
No, it's not, and it's an amendment to the substitute. Lisa, help me out.
I was not aware of that. The substitute that I had prepared was just making accurate the formula for how we actually set the floor in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads.
Right, and Jason?
It applies to both regions.
Okay, is the substitute right, or do I need to amend the substitute?
Substitute's right, okay, let's
the
adopt the
substitute's right.
substitute then.
Okay.
We've got the substitute here.
I move substitute.
Okay, motion properly supported to adopt the substitute for Senate Bill 896. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the
And everything I
substitute-
just said about substitute.
Right, it's all
May bill
all
by
good.
substitute, Mr. Chairman. I
Actually,
move
Senator Wagner, I agree with the comment you made the other day. We're just kind of doing this, but probably better just to go back to cents per gallon and be just very transparent about it.
Well, Mr. Chairman, one step at a time, but I'm not sure our friends at the House are there yet. So,
Right, okay.
Well, let's take what we can get and
All
move
right.
forward with it.
What's the pleasure of the committee?
We move to report.
Motion properly supported to report the bill, Senate Bill 896. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes. Clerk, close the roll. Senator Wagner, did you get yours up there?
No, can somebody hit my button, Janet?
You.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Isn't that interesting?
Okay, clerk will pick up that vote, and then that leaves it 12, ayes 12, nays 3. The bill is reported.
Put me on there. Okay, and one last bill, Senator Stanley Don Quixote is back again and with the I-73. As you know, Mr. Chairman, we have a dedicated source of revenue to continue the improvements on Route 58, the expansion of 4 lanes. Senator Stanley wants to ensure that whenever that project is completed, and I think the best guess will be 2040, that dedicated source of revenue then turns over to the continuation and building out of I-73. It is forward-looking, but Senator Stanley is committed to the I-73 project, and this provides some modicum of confidence that money will be available for this project whenever in the future that Route 58 finally please. And by a vote of 5-0-1, it was voted to report that bill, and I would so move, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there a second? Second, motion properly supported, and I would agree, I-73 will probably be built from Roanoke to North Carolina before this money becomes available.
Right. We'll
do that.
That's right, Mr. Chairman. So.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the committee? I think we have a motion properly supported. Clerk, open the roll. Cast your votes.
I got it this time.
Yours is, got it? Got it? Okay. Clerk, close the roll.
Ayes 13, noes 2, 1 abstention.
Ayes 13, noes 2, 1 abstention. The bill is reported.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That concludes it. Okay, and obviously, Senator Wagner, you have one bill that was pulled back into your subcommittee that you'll be working on to report at our Thursday meeting. Right, and just for the information, based on the rules that we're operating under this year, we will have a meeting, of course, tomorrow, and then we will have our special meeting Thursday, where we will need to clear our docket Thursday afternoon. So With that, no further business. Committee will rise.